to the conversation elsewhere on identity, Anderswo und Identität, organized by our German-Italian association Volare, together with the association Friends of the Arabic Art and Culture of Heidelberg, in cooperation with the Intercultural Center Heidelberg and the publishing house Non Solo Verlag of Freiburg. I'm very pleased to welcome on our virtual stage Igiaba Scego, live from Rome, and Nadja Madani-Moudarres, live from Heidelberg.
Hello.
Welcome. Welcome.
Buonasera.
So, Igiaba Scego is an Italian writer, journalist, activist of Somali origin. She graduated in foreign literature at the University of Rome, and she writes for various Italian magazine newspapers, such as Internazionale, Repubblica, Espresso, and she has published in Italy many books, among them Oltre Babilonia, which was translated also in English between 2008 and the translation 2019, La mia casa dove sono, 2010, and then Ardua in 2015, and in 2020, last year, La linea del colore, published by Bompiani, which will be soon translated also in English, and which won the Premio Napoli in December 2020. And in Germany, the Non Solo Verlag, whose mission is to translate Italian authors and make them known in the German country, has published history, the l'Icona, in the anthology Spiegelung, Vita allo Specchio, in 2018, and in 2020, the mini anthology Dysmatria and Other Tests. We will get back to this later. Nadja Madani-Moudarres is a German Syrian founder of the nonprofit cultural association Friends of the Arabic Art and Culture, located in Heidelberg. As chairwoman of this association, she has been promoting for more than 20 years cultural diversity and cultural dialogue between the Arab world and the German society. In 2018, she was awarded for her voluntary work with the Citizen Plaque of the city of Heidelberg. She works for an international scientific publishing company, and she worked for many years in information management for the Middle East. And she has continued her life's work in cultural education since her study in Middle Eastern science, economics, and development education. So two wonderful women for this discussion. And why this title, Anderswo und Identität? We thought that it would have been an interesting bridge, an ideal connection between the work of Igiaba as a writer and activist and Nadja engagement in promoting mutual understanding and cultural diversity between Arab art professionals and local communities. So I would start with Igiaba and her German publication Dysmatria, which is currently the star theme of the Baden-Württemberg Abitur. Igiaba, you have created a wonderful neologism with the term Dysmatria. Would you like to tell us where does this term come from and which meaning does it have for you? Thank you. We don't hear you. No.
Okay, now maybe something happened. Now?
Now, yeah.
Okay. Something happened. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Good evening. I'm so happy to share this virtual stage with you and with Miss Nadja because it's wonderful to share experiences because we are all in a way in this world and all in this continent, Europe. And it's really powerful for me to understand what happened in Germany, in France, in Spain, because we are in this community and we have to build a new community, a new way to be and became European. So I'm Afro-European and I want to speak about my identity later, but I'm so happy about this publication in German, this materia, and I'm so it's wonderful for me to see my words in German because I'm an Italian writer. My weapon of literature is Italian language, and it's really fascinating for me to see my words in German, and wonderful to see that students in Germany study this text. So really powerful, and this matter is, I think, is my second short stories. I wrote many years ago, around 2005. Yeah, 2005. Yeah, other age, other Igiaba in a way, other way to face writing. But it's in that moment of my life, I'm so interested, I'm so deep involved in a refugee question because I'm involved always in a refugee question, but in that moment for me it's so next to the Somali war, Somali civil war. Somali civil war became in 1990, began in 1992. 1991, I'm sorry. And I remember it's quite tough time for me. I was teenager and my mom was there involved in the war. So really horrible. You stay in Italy, yeah, in a safe place, peaceful, but you know that your mother and a part of your family stay in the civil war. So when my mom came back 2 years later, so safe, this is we are lucky. And but I see a lot of diaspora in that moment because Somalia was live a strange story before Italian colonialism, then Italian trusteeship from 1950 to 1960, then 9 years of democracy, then dictatorship, and then civil war. So really many things. So in 1991 began our diaspora. A lot of Somali people spread out of the country, tried to save their life in another country, before in Kenya and in Ethiopia, and then Italy and Europe and United States. In a way, it's the same story of the Syrian, of the Afghanistan, of the other people that like us to live these horrible things. War is really horrible. And for that reason, I understand the situation of refugee because my life, my parents are refugee before the civil war, and then with civil war I saw a lot of other people of the family became refugees. So this material for me is a way to explain the feeling of refugee, because matter is meaning Latin mother. And for me it's a motherland, and this materia I think in a French word, déraciner, meaning you are out of your country, you are, yeah, it's like painful, you are out of your country, but it's not travel, it's a migration, it's something deep, it's something really difficult for you. So this materia meaning be became refugee and stay so far from your country. In a way, you are far, not only in presence, but your feelings stay between pain and fear. In a way, for me, this material is a is a way to explain that the condition of refugee. And the short story is about two women, a daughter and her mother, and the daughter want to buy a house, to buy a wardrobe, and to stay in a new country. But the mother want to come back one day in a country that they left with, because of the war. So it's a two condition that I see in the family, not only in my family, because this short story is not autobiography, but it's a condition of the people that want to stay and the people want to come back, you know, and this is typical of Somali, and not only Somali, but it's typical of Somali that the people don't like wardrobes. In the first time, in the first moment of the civil war, they put all dresses, all their things in the suitcase, because maybe you come back, maybe. So I try to build all these short stories about this feeling. And in a way, I want to explain our feelings in that moment, because when civil war began, like my family want to come back. So it's a strange situation. My mom stay in Somalia in that moment because it's a like preparation to coming back to Somalia and to leave Italy. So it's quite difficult for me to remember that time, because it's so painful, so really, it's a like nightmare, because war is not easy for anyone. So this is the meaning of of the short stories. And only I want tell you one thing more. This Matria, in a German edition, you find other short stories too. One about colonialism and another one about Italian whiteness. They built how Italian built their whiteness. So it's a three moment of the life of my career, of course, but the three moments of Italy, with refugee, with colonialism, and whiteness.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Nadja, this Matria, what triggers these neologisms for yourself and the people you work with? And how does it reflect your activities and the project you are being focusing?
Yeah. I mean, when I read this word the first time, this creation, I would call it, by Igiaba, I felt really touched very much, and especially when you started now explaining what it meant for you and what was the context. You are describing the situation after the first civil war in 91. I have maybe to go back a step further. My situation was a little bit a different one. I am born and I grew up in Germany, but my father was one of the Syrians or the Arabs from the Levant who came in the 50s to Germany. They had a very happy situation in these days. They came for studies, yeah. And the war, how you have been describing it, I faced also from the middle of the 10 years ago. We all know 10 years of Arab Revolution, Arab Spring, however they call it. And the same feelings you are describing, that you are here in Europe in a place in security. I had when the war in Syria started, you have your people there, your families there, your friends, you have maybe even a place you built up within many years because you wanted to have a place over there because it's your country, it's your culture, and to the same time, here where you are born, where you grew up, and where you have, yeah, the second culture. You have different cultures, you have different languages. And in the moment the war started and I could not go back to Syria, I left Syria on the 15th of March 2011. This was the day when we said in Syria the war started. Yeah, from this time on, I'm missing something, and I would also like to have my suitcase here and just take it and go, not because I was forced to leave my country. I was already living here in a very good environment, safe environment. So this is one point of view, to know that something is missing. There is this dysfunction. On the other hand, dysmatria also is for me something, the seeking for, or the thoughts about where is your homeland. These were the thoughts and the feelings I was very much confronted with maybe in my childhood. Thinking that I have to decide where to belong to, whether you are German, you are Syrian, Arabic, you are having a certain religion because you lived in an environment which was a Christian environment, but on the other hand, you also have this religious background from your father. So you have these two different cultures and languages and religions, which in a time when I was a young woman, so let's say not a child anymore, growing up, I felt it's not a dysmatria anymore, it's both. You have both cultures and it's enriching you. I was not missing something. I didn't feel that I have to say or to take party for something special. It was both in me. I had more than one identity, more than one culture, more than one homeland, you know, and this is until now. Yeah.
We have been going into the second question a little bit, which was, but it's fine. It's I think you can separate the themes. They are completely connected. So the was a little bit exactly, Igiaba, you already said that your parents came to Rome in the 60s, and your roots are in Somalia, and your religion is Muslim, if I'm correct about my research. You are a woman of color. How do you meld all these identities in your person and in your work as a writer, in your literature? And has this feeling of being in more or between two cultures changed over the years?
Yeah, identities is something really crazy for me, because it's not your fault, but all the people ask about our identities, and it's wonderful because I understand that my identity changed. You know, I remember one wonderful book that I read so many years ago called L'Identità. The author was Amin Ma'alouf, a Lebanese writer, really wonderful, and he said in the book the same, because maybe something out of you changed your identity. For example, he used the example of the former Yugoslavia countries, Croatia, Slovenia, Bosnia, and with Tito, during the Cold War, Yugoslavia is only one country. Then something happened, the war, and something split the country in different countries, Bosnia and Croatia, and sometimes during the war, above all during the war, religion was really powerful things to split identities, and one person feel Christian and another person feel Muslim. So I think something like this happened to me, because I know one identity. I have one sure identity, and I'm Roman because I was born in Rome. This is my identity. Sometimes my identity is the theme of my city. Today we changed the coach of the team, Rome, and all the people talk about this. And you know, my soccer team and my city is quite sure, but it's just not joking, because for Roman people, you know, the city is really important. Sometimes the area and the street where do you live. So it's quite amazing. And another thing is really important for me is my two countries, of course, Somalia and Italy. And Somalia, Italy have a lot of connection together, because Somalia was a former colony of Italy, and my parents came in Italy in 1970s because of colonialism, because they knew the language, knew Italian before they came in Italy. So, and a lot of my family did Italian school in Somalia. So the people speak and live Italian culture in Somalia. For example, my sister always, even now, told me, how about Gianni Morandi? Gianni Morandi is one Italian singer, really famous during the 60s. So my family was so connected with Italian culture, and it's not the only family, because now the connection between Italy and Somalia is not so strong like before, because now the world changed after 2001. Other type of colonization came to Africa, China, for example, but in Somalia, Turkey. The people speak Turkish and not Italian anymore. So it's quite different situation. But for the generation of my father and my mama and mother, and the generation until my brothers, my elderly brothers, Italian culture was so important. So sometimes they are more Italian than me, because I'm Roman, they are Italian. So and this is quite amazing, you know. But for me, my identity is my language, because I speak Somali, of course. With my family, and of course religion. I read and Quran in Arabic, of course. But my language is the language that I use, like writer. Italian is something, one identity. It's a really important identity, because in this language I put all the other languages, and all the other languages meaning Somali, but meaning Portuguese and Spanish, because I study Portuguese and Spanish, and this involved change my identities in a way, because all the people in Italy ask me for Africa. You are African, and Africa. What's your language? Is African. So it's quite amazing. The recent African language. There are many languages in Africa, and Africa is a big continent. And I know only one piece of Africa. One piece of Africa is Somalia, but Africa is Libya, is Nigeria, is Tunisia, is South Africa. And for me, it's quite difficult to face all the continent. For that reason, I study Spanish and Portuguese, because I understand a lot of things about African identity, African diaspora, to study Brazil, for example, because Brazil is a country with a lot of Black people like me, and a lot of Black people. Maybe Afro descendant in Brazil are 50% of the population, and of course the story of the slavery, the story of migration, and university studies was so useful for me to understand all African stuff, but in another continent, in South America. Then I did a travel and I came back to Africa to understand Africa, you know, and the story of colonization in Africa and Italian colonialism in Somalia. So for that reason, I think identity is quite difficult word, because identity sometimes is related with it's not only countries but age, because my age is something I'm 47 now, so my identities when I was teenager and now is not the same identity. Something changed, something happened in between, you know. And for me sometimes it's difficult. For example, when I read this materia, German students ask me a lot of things that I don't remember really, and I in that days when I speak with these students, I my memory wake up in a way. I understand my identity in that period of my life. Now I'm in another period. It's like to see a movie, you know, but the main actor, the main actress of that movie are you. I am in this case is Igiaba. So it's quite amazing identities, and I try in my books to speak about all this stuff, and more about Blackness than Muslim, because for me religion, for me this is not for all the people, but for me it's something private, and my relation with God is something all for me, and it's difficult for me to speak about religion. And above all, after 9/11, you know, because our world was something happened to Muslim wars during that time. And above all in Somalia is one of the countries that have more terrorism attack in the world, next to with Nigeria and Boko Haram. So it's quite difficult situation. And for me, terrorism is not religion, for example. And this is really something that you have to understand, not you, but the world have to understand. When you say Muslim is not terrorist, you know. And for me, it's important that religion stay with me in a different way, it's a private way, and with my family, for example. But in my books, I speak about Blackness because I'm black, a Black woman, and a Black woman in that time after the murder of George Floyd. And this is George Floyd. When George Floyd died in this horrible way, something wake up in me. I remember that day like horrible nightmare, but I understand that we have to fight more and more against racism, not only in United States, but in Europe, in Italy, in Rome, because there is a story of European racism, and you have to build this story together to become to create a good society for everyone. So, and another identity is Europe, because I'm African, but I'm European, so I'm Afro-European, and this is quite difficult because sometimes it's difficult to explain what's mean to be Italian and what's mean to be European. It's not easy, so I try to understand with my books, with my characters in the book. So I don't understand really my identity, but I look for identities. I look for what I became now and I was before.
Yeah, that of course, we have so many identities. That's
Yeah.
true. What you just said, you can. There's always this question also for who's coming in Europe from one country to another. No? For us, Italian coming to Germany, it's. Yeah, we could talk for hours about this. So Nadja, you also already said that your father came from Syria, and you were born here in Heidelberg, and you also grew up in different country, culture and religion background, and your research and studies also are related to this culture you didn't really grow up in, but you were there many times. And how has that been for you, the influence and the relationship between these cultures?
Yeah, it's definitely correct. I did not grow up in this in Syria, in the Arabic world, but this world, this culture was always here in our family, our environment, the language, the traditions. My family, who were able in these days to come also to Europe, we could meet. So I got the taste of my culture I was never able to live in until I was 19. So it's quite a long time. But then I really jumped into the world. I was always feeling it is me, it belongs to me. And now I have to learn the language properly, because I have to admit that I did not grow up in the Arabic language as a mother tongue. It was not my mother tongue. So I learned the language. I digested everything which had to do with literature, history, politics, everything which related to the society, questions of humanity, questions of injustice, everything. But I think this is a pretty typical biography, because having been growing up in Germany, where you learn also to ask critical questions, to learn about our history, about the connections also between Europe and the Middle East, North Africa. You get curious more and more, and you want to understand also reasons. What were the origins? Why we have in this contemporary world we are living in certain movements, fanatism, etc., etc. So I focused my studies pretty much here, just to make it very short. And when I came back after quite a while that I have been living in Syria, for me it was important. Of course, my studies in Middle Eastern political science also is something which is a very important part of my life until now. Even I'm working in a different field. But yeah, so coming back, it was very clear for me I have to establish an entity, a kind of association, together, of course, with other people who had this Arab-German background, and to make people more aware about the Arab world, to share experience, to invite people from the Arab world. But 25 years ago, there were not so many Arabic cultural practitioners living here in Germany or in Europe. It was really an effort to bring people to talk on politics, to have good dialogues and open discussions, but also the artists, musicians, people you want to present here. It was pretty difficult to establish this, but we managed pretty well, and this would now lead me also to a question maybe we were aiming to talk later on, but very important within this last 20-25 years, having this idea to share with our communities here in Germany, the Arab world, and the different facets. Now we have a lot of young people, not only young people, different generations, but the majority young people with an excellent cultural background and working in culture, in art, in music, in literature, journalists, a lot of women coming here, and they continue to write, continue to work in this, in their working environment they used to work in. And we share experience now. Now we have, we are very, very lucky to enlarge and embroad our community here, not only in Heidelberg, it's let's say all over Germany, and sometimes also we have these bridges to other European countries, and we enable and these people who had no name in the beginning. This is also something very interesting. They were maybe known in their countries, even it was sometimes threatening to be known for writing, for their critical writings, but they at least had a name. And here they were in the beginning not known at all. Let me use the word nobodies, you know. But in the meantime, yeah, it's just great to be able to mediate between these two cultures, to bring the German society community together. So this is what I have been living, and as Nadja, as a person, and then I can adapt this to my work in this cultural environment. So this is, I think, a very, very important point, and part of my life and part of the doing and the practice of the people we work with in our association.
Thank you, Nadja. Maybe we go back to literature. And Igiaba, would you like to tell us something about your last novel, La linea del colore, a little bit the research and the history behind this novel, and why it's also considered as part of a trilogy, you know, together with Adwa and Beyond Babylon?
Yeah, I want to say something to Nadja before, because it's so fascinating, her story and her work with in the Arab world and the connection with Germany. And I want to say that I met in Brazil an association of Syrian like yours in a way, in Brazil, because there are many Syrians in Brazil that I didn't know before. Syrian for that came in Brazil in in the beginning of the 20th century. For example, the writer Jorge Amado talk a lot about Syrian community and Lebanese, because they talk about Syrian, but they are Syrian and Lebanese.
Exactly.
And there is a wonderful novel. I know the title, I'm so sorry, in Portuguese, Gabriela Cravo e Canela. By Jorge Amado, and the main character was Syrian, so and it was really wonderful. And he wrote about a book about the Syrian in South America, so it's really fascinating to understand. And it's now in that moment the Syrian situation is really sad, like Somali. And I have a lot of friends from Syria, and really it's powerful. And like you, I try to study Arabic. It's not easy because I study Syrian dialect because it's next to the Fushat, next to the classic Arabic. And but maybe in the future. But I know the grammar, just one step, and I know for the Quran, I know to read and all stuff. So fascinating. I love your work in to try to connect people, and in a way.
Thank you, Igiaba.
Really powerful. And I try to connect people with my writings because I always speak about blackness, because blackness is really something important for me before what happened in 2020 in the United States. But we are black, and the people, when we see the skin color before or before other things, the skin color and and our skin color meaning have a history. I always say that black is not a color, black is a travel for me, and I try to describe in a way that travel in this novel, La linea del colore. It will be published in United States and France in 2022. I'm so happy about France because United States love me a lot and translate me always, but France is the first time. So like Germany with this material, so I'm really happy. And I describe to travel in a way it's two novels in one. In the first part, there are main character was Lafanu Brown. Lafanu Brown. Lafanu Brown is an Afro-American, Native American woman that dream for Italy because want to become an artist, and the only place that you became an artist for real is Italy. So she dreamed to came in Italy one day, but she's black and she's poor, so it's not easy. So the abolitionist, other women, white abolitionists, help her, but helping her in a strange way. And I describe this story because I'm influenced about two real women that live in Italy in the middle of 19th century. One was Edmonia Lewis, a sculptor, another one, and I want to show her. Another one is Sarah Parker Remond. Sarah Parker Remond was an abolitionist, and Edmonia was an artist. And I want to show a little bit, just 1 second, because we have to, okay. Edmonia. This I want to explain the other. This is Edmonia, so noble. I love her because, and her story is really interesting because she was Afro-American, Native American. She was a lesbian, and she was a sculptor, and she tried to become a free woman. No, because she wasn't a slave, but free for the helping of abolitionists. So this is one of the two of the sculpture of Edmonia, and this is a sculpture so interesting. The name is Forever Free. It's about slavery. And Sarah Parker Remond. Sarah Parker Remond died in Rome. And now there is a memory in a cemetery that she stayed in Rome. And I love these two women because I understand a lot of things from them, as above all to be free and to try to live a free life. So this is really important. And the other part of the novel is about traveling now. It's about two cousins, Leila and Binti, two Somali, but different way to be Somali. One is second generation of Somali and Italian. She was born in Italy like me. And the other one is Binti, is a little cousin that live in Somalia and want to came in Europe with horrible, with this horrible travel through the desert and then the boat from Libya to Italy. So I describe, the situation of Leila. Leila was work in a museum and try to in that moment study Lafanu Brown. The connection is the research that Leila do about the story and the legacy of Lafanu Brown. And that moment, Binti call her on WhatsApp and send the messages on WhatsApp and say, I began my travel. So it's two way to see the travel. The travel is for me, this novel is something important because I want to explain to Italian people, and not only to Italian, that the problem of travel of migration today is not the feeling of migration, but is the impossibility to move from your country to another country in Africa and outside Africa. So our passport, I have an Italian passport, but Somali passport, Ethiopian passport, Eritrean passport, African passport in general is really no useful to travel, because for Europe is not only Europe, it's fortress Europe, closed borders to other people, to Syrians, to Afghanistan, to Somalia, and it's impossible to came here in a legal way. So I want to explain all this stuff, but not with an essay, but with a novel. So I use a frame. I use two frames. The one frame is the travel of migrants. The other frame is the grand tour that the European used to do in 18th and 19th century. Above all, male, men, and rich men from United Kingdom or United States or Germany to Italy to see, the arts and all the landscape of Italy, and to educate our feelings to see the beauty of Italy. So these two frames is so important, and I try to connect, and the connection for me is Lafanu Brown. But Lafanu Brown, when came in Italy, see another Italy, see, for example, the Black Italy. And I use in the novel, and I want to show you a lot of painting with a Black body presence. And the African presence in the European world and in Italian art above all. This is a key moment of the novel, because Leila in the second part of the novel and Lafanu stay in front of this fountain in Marino. Marino is a little city near Rome, next to Rome. And Marino, this fountain is important in Roman tradition, because the feast, the sagra of the grape, sagra meaning is something holiday. I don't know the word in English. I'm so sorry. Yeah, maybe it's just a big feast. It's like Oktoberfest in a way, of grape, no beer but wine. So there is a song of about wine and Marino. Really, all the people know in Rome. But this fountain is not neutral. It's 4 slaves in the fountains, 2 women and 2 men. This is the other perspective of the fountain. And this is another painting that I use in the novel. It's Lorenzo Lotto Renaissance. So it's quite amazing. This lady is a midwife. Really, it's a midwife, but I try to explain in another way in the novel. I explain the painful of this lady and the fear that she felt in that moment. And I used this one too. It's Veronese. And this one that I love is Carpaccio. You find in the Museum of Venice of the Accademia. It's about a miracle, but the important things in this painting of Carpaccio is the life around Rialto Bridge. Rialto was the business place. It's like Wall Street in a way, the business place of Venice in that time during the Renaissance. But in the center of this wonderful and big, it's so really big painting, there is a black gondolier. So new presence and African presence above all in Venice are really important. So I use these many things in the novel to explain to Italy that Italy is not only Europe, it's a bridge between Europe and Africa for me. And this presence meaning something happened in Italy before migration, before that time, because Black presence was there during the Renaissance and even before, during the Roman Empire. So, for example, Caracalla, the famous emperor, was African descendant like me, because his father was Settimio Severo. Settimio Severo was African because was born in Leptismania. Leptismania is Libya. So I want to explain connection. This is a painting that I don't use in I didn't use in the novel, but it's so important because I think in this painting all the time is the Alfama area of Lisbon. It's a lot of Black people and of different classes. You know, it's something amazing. And for me, this novel is in a way is my explanation of our contemporary dilemma in front of the migration, because we need to do something different. We need to build another Europe. I feel European. I love to be European and I love to be Afro-European, but it's quite difficult sometimes in European identity when you think that Europe is a fortress, is close the borders to the other. And I think that we have to build a way to help each other. For example, the people, the migrants from Africa came in Europe because Europe go before in Africa with colonization. So we are here, we meaning Black and Arabs and we migrants in general, we are here because you are there. So and this is a really important, this is the key of my novel, and I want to explain with a 1921 century novel in a way. And I use a lot of books to write this book. I read the diaries. I read a lot of books famous during the Grand Tour, like Hawthorne, The Marble Found, for example. And of course, I read Jane Austen, not for Grand Tour, but you know, because Jane Austen, I love Jane Austen, and I reread Jane Austen 1,000 times. And she useful to explain, you know, the relation of class and women, you know, and they're really powerful. And of course, I hope, and I use, yeah, this is important. And the last things that I told you is it's important to me to create a good language for any character. And I use so many characters, and I study a different language for any of them. So it's Italian, but it's in a way it's American and it's African, because this story is between United States, Italy, and Somalia.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So this really needs a lot of studies also.
Yeah.
That's really amazing.
Above all dress.
Wow. I mean, Igiaba, you are really, you are having your voice by being a writer. Yeah. This is very interesting thing when I look at your role you have. I mean, you are actively writing, you have a direct voice, you can say. And my task and the task of the people I'm working with in our association is that we enable, you know, people to raise their voice, to give them a kind of stage. And so we are, let's say, like the speaker. We give them the speaker, and then we give them a language via enabling them. This was very, very interesting to understand how you prepare and work on the content of your books. It's amazing. I jumped in, Roberta.
No problem.
But I really want to say this.
I'm still in the middle of the book, Igiaba. I'm reading it. It's fascinating because there are so many characters, and but it's really interesting. It's
Thank
really
you.
nice. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
So
And yeah, and that's Nadja. There was the question actually about if you wanted to tell us about your project here, Sein, with literature.
Maybe I give you a brief idea of one of the most important projects we had. I would say it was even the start of a series of projects when we started to work with young people coming from various Arabic countries, coming as refugees to Germany, who had to build up their life here. So this was also in autumn 2017, when Germany was struggling with the question of becoming an immigration country. You know, we are discussing a lot here, and forgetting about the people with a migration background who have been living here for decades, you know. So suddenly we had two different communities of migrants here in Germany. This was very, very interesting. So we invited female and male writers coming from different regions and zones of war and crisis, and we wanted them to speak themselves about their life, giving insights on their artistic work, and also about their life now in this new country. Yeah. We called the project, it's a little bit difficult to translate it in English, but the idea was saying, being away, now being here, becoming part, and getting the feeling of becoming a real part of completely being here. It's very difficult to explain, but in German it was very clear: weg sein, hier sein, Teil sein, ganz sein. Yeah. So we created here a series of readings and dialogues, and as I said, very, very important literary voices. And yeah, what was amazing, and when you look at the follow-up of this series, the German community, our audience, so to say, they learned a lot about the life of people they never had a chance to talk to. I mean, now I'm talking at 21. In the meantime, the situation changed a bit, but nobody had an idea what was life about in Iraq, in Yemen, in Syria. What was the meaning of work, of family, neighborhoods, of belongings, of laughs you have been you had to leave, yeah. and how difficult also it was to find a place in this new society. And these questions have been discussed very, very intensively, but with the format of literature. So this is our voice we give to the people we work with, cultural practitioners, with performers, with also directors, theater makers. I mean, a very large group of people from different backgrounds gathered together in our association, suddenly very, very dynamic, and of course also a younger generation who were able also to bring a new group of people to our place, and where we learned so much from each other. And this happened 3.5 years ago, and until now we could follow up with new projects, with initiatives, with an online magazine we have been participating for more than 2 years, which was talking about politics, about art, about cinema, about everything in German and Arabic language, yeah, for example. And one thing is also very, very important for us, the people who translated this. I mean, in this time, the people, the young, we always like to use the word, the people who are neu beheimatet in Germany. They found a new country, yeah. So the language skills in these days were still very, very limited. So we had fantastic translators, not only translating languages and diminishing barriers here. No, they were also cultural translators. This was fantastic, you know, to translate between cultures. So it was amazing also to see how they became the protagonists. They felt free to express their wishes, their dreams, their fears, their worries. We talked about everything. And we even invited later on, this was a follow-up of this important project, female and male writers, journalists who had not the chance to leave their country, but also due to certain reason maybe decided to stay in their countries. And we invited them very, very early. This was in the early 2018 via Skype. Today we would use Zoom and so on, into our cultural place. We have a small gallery here in Heidelberg. It's our place where we can, of course, the last 12 months it was not possible, but normally we have the opportunity to invite people and to have these live dialogues here at our place. And yeah, there are so many chances we got because of this project, which was also supported by very important German ministries, our cultural office here in Heidelberg, promoted, of course, by institutions like the Intercultural Center and many others. And it was also part of our activities. We always have been, we always felt the topics belong to us. When now we are talking still in the context of the International Weeks of Against Racism, correct? And this series of international weeks is became so important also for Heidelberg. And you, Roberta, you know very well how we started as being part of the Alliance of Diversity here with Weeks Against Racism. So this is all part of our activities, of the way I have been living over the last, or not living, being active over the last 20-25 years in this intercultural environment, and where I see so many bridges between other associations, like Volare. Volare is an German-Italian association. We are Arabic German, but see how much we have in common. And Igiaba and you and me, I mean, I was just reading a little bit about you. I understood from the beginning on, we have so much in common. Yeah. Even there is maybe has been a different time frame, but you are black, I am white. Yeah. But this has nothing to do with it. We are having our two cultures, so many identities, so many languages. I mean, it's enriching our life, but it's also sometimes making our life complicated.
Yes.
Sometimes you hate it, that it is so complicated, but I think most of the time we are also proud, because who knows about Arabs from the Levant living in the southern part of America? Yeah, you know it because you are living in this international context. You meet people from there and there. And of course, I know it because, yeah, you know, people and families who left Lebanon, Syria, and the whole area many, many decades ago. I mean, this is so fascinating. And I was not surprised that you said you have a lot of Syrian friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this project, I could tell you more for hours, and I think I should stop talking about it now, but maybe one or two small citations I would like to come up with. We have one of our very active members and friends in our association, and she always is choosing literature from very special persons, like, of course, the Palestinian writer and intellectual Edward Said. You, Igiaba, know him. Maybe Roberta also, you know him. And he has been writing a lot about identity, about language, because he always has been living between here and there. Yeah, or look at another very, very important literary voice of Palestine, Mahmoud Darwish, who was a close friend to Edward Said, and he was interviewing him, writing to him, and he asked him about identity. And then I would like to mention another very important voice, female voice, May Ziadeh. I'm not sure, Igiaba, whether you heard about her. She was very active, let's say, in the 20s, in the 30s of last century. And we had a performance here in Heidelberg where we combined music with literature. This is something we very often do, because this is our tool also to make, to open a space for people, sending them a very, very important message, but via the format which is not so confrontative. You understand? Yeah. So May Ziadeh, she was, also living and growing up between countries and different homelands. And I just want to close my, let's say this part, I want to to tell you with a very small reading of Maisie Adam. It's about homeland. Homeland is a very essential question we all have. Roberta, you also have this. You are living between two countries as well. So it's a translation in English originally. It is, of course, in Arabic. And it says, "Where is my homeland? My father hails from another country. My mother comes from another country. My home, however, is also in another country. And now my spiritual soul wander from one country into another. Can you tell me which country I belong to? And or which country I should stand for?" It's just a very small passage or paragraph from a very long essay she was writing and exchanging thoughts and ideas with Gibran Khalil Gibran. We all know all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe we before we would get to the end of our conversation, I would like to ask the public if you have any question, please write via Facebook, YouTube, whatever. We collect the question and then we try to get through it. Maybe we can just close with a thought about, because you already said, Nadja, that we organize this event original in the International Week Against Racism, and what welcome culture, Willkommenskultur for us, special association, has always been the most important thing. We would like to work on this and to be this as focus to welcome everybody and to mix the culture, the thought, the tradition, everything. So maybe you already talked, Igiaba, about this, your thought about this right to travel, the regulation of this right, and I don't know if you want just to give your thought about what welcome culture for you, or what should be, or how in Italy, how do you see Italy right now? It would be also interesting for us living far from Italy regarding this welcome culture.
Yeah, we need another panel, I think, another Zoom call, because it's so long. But I think we need to decolonize Italy, to decolonize our space, our feelings, our politics. And above all, we need a law here, a law of citizenship, because in that moment it's difficult for second generation in general to become Italian when they get to 18 years old. So when you arrive in your wonderful age of 18, you became stranger, foreigner in your own country. And this is crazy. And I think we need to do a law for a younger generation, and not only young people, because there are a lot of people that I know that grew up here from Capo Verde or in other countries, Tunisia, Syria, and Chile, but they came when they was child. So when you when you arrive at your 18, you became foreign in your country. So this is crazy. And I know people that became father and mother without citizenship. So it's quite a crazy situation. And we need to decolonize our country. I think we need it because the world is changed, and Italy is changed. Now is a really transcultural society. We live all in a melting pot society, so we need to change and to connect our country to the other countries of the world. And if you want to become for real European, we need to open our doors to the contemporary world.
Yeah, bravo. This is definitely a topic for another panel, but who knows? Maybe somebody feels inspired to say, let's continue here, because it's such an important issue. Yeah. Thank you for being so active here.
Yeah, thank you. But you're active more than me. I'm only a writer. I'm staying
in a different way.
Yeah, in a different way.
Let's put it like this.
Yeah, I love to speak about I love to speak with students above all, because it's really important to enter in the school in this year with pandemia, with the COVID-19. I use a lot of Zoom with the schools, but I hope to come back to the school with the students to do lab as usual, because I think our experience is important to young generations. So we need to share experience and to learn, to share your experience and to learn from young people.
Exactly.
Because young people have a lot of experience, so really wonderful and important and sometimes painful. So we need to share, and because we are in a conversation, and I think literature is a conversation.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I love Edward Said. Edward Said was one of the pillar of my knowledge. Without Edward Said or without Fanon, I'm nothing, because I've learned a lot from them.
We all learned a lot. I mean, he influenced totally new thinking.
Yeah.
This will also be one of the topics we have been working on, and I really have to say the name of my wonderful friend Aida. She is doing a lot of research on personalities of the Arab world. Of course, Edward Said we all know, but also of other personalities we might not know enough and who are very, very important. And she is putting this in a context and in a format. It's amazing, by using language in multilingual, also in different languages. When you listen to her Arabic readings, it's so beautiful. And this is also something, who knew how the Arabic language really sounds here in Europe or in Germany. In Germany, there was not this relationship before, like you have maybe in France and in other countries.
But, Arab literature, I think, is really important. One of my favorite book is Mawsim al-Hijra ila Jamal by Tayyib Saleh. I don't know the title. The title in the season of the migration of the North, maybe.
Exactly.
Because I don't know the title in English, really, the title, because I read it in Italian, of course. And it's
one of
the powerful novel from Africa and from Arabic world.
Exactly.
Because Sudan is a crossroads between Arab world and Africa.
Exactly.
So wonderful. And I think I know Isabella Camera d'Affitto is one of top translator and professor of Arabic literature. So she always did anthology of Arabic literature. So all the people around me knew a lot of things of Arabic world because of her, because of her
Uh-huh.
work. Yeah, it's really powerful.
Right.
It's Bella Camera d'Affitto. It's one of the pillar of Italian pillar between Arab world and Italy. So it's really important. And I read a lot of short stories and mahfuz and
course.
poetry like Kabani and
Yeah.
new short stories from other places like Tunisia or even Qatar, Oman is a really interesting place for women above all.
Yes, exactly. And look at the literature also you find in some Gulf countries from very critical authors writing on the workers living for decades in these countries, and what about their life, their thoughts and feelings. Nobody is really taking care about this. This is a very important movement as well. And also there are some very important movies about this topic, or the emigration within the Arab world. This is also a very important topic. Look at the Syrians, the Egyptians, the Lebanese leaving for the Gulf countries because and from North Africa as well because of economic reasons. And how do they live there, and so on and so on and so on. We cannot stop, but I'm very happy that you were mentioning Saleh Tayyib, because we also made a literature session about his work. And so I think we will continue to exchange.
Maybe.
Would be great, and hopefully to see in person, and you come to Heidelberg, and we have a good session at the Intercultural Center as well. Inshallah, this would be great.
I just heard that YouTube comments are not, they don't work. I don't know if now I'm getting darkness, sorry. So I don't know if there is any question coming inside. Now I see if there is any other question coming. Otherwise, I mean, one thing that would be interesting, just also to close, would be your just short information about your future projects. Igiaba, I heard.
My future projects really at the end of this month, in the end of May, it will be published an anthology about African literature in Italian. We translate 19 short stories from different places of Africa. And it's a really powerful project, and I hope that Italian readers became aware about Africa, because Africa is not one, but Africa are many countries. So we try to choose different short stories from different countries. And I did a podcast, and it will be published at the end of this month. I did a podcast about Blackness with a friend of mine, Esther Elisha. She was an actress. And maybe in September, but I have to finish a book for children. Not for children, I'm so sorry. It's 11 years old. It's not so children, but young adult.
Right. Amazing. Wow. Compliments. This sounds really as an active period of time.
Because I try to do something for me, but for society too. So because in this COVID-19 time, we need to remember that we are all human beings, because the people are close and fear, and we need to open. And maybe because the such is not social distancing, it's only distancing for COVID, not for all the time. So we need to stay safe, of course, but we need to open our heart in that moment. This is really important, really important. Yeah.
I think this is a very nice final word.
Yeah.
You were saying, open our heart.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nadja, do you want to add something about your
I mean, I could tell you a little bit what we are planning, but I think I will share this with you when we actively doing it. And I like the sound of the word, let's open our heart. I think this is a nice final expression. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roberta.
Yeah, thank you too,
Roberta,
for being here. It was really nice. I don't know if there was any question. I can't, maybe not. I think the conversation was so rich and inspiring that there are no questions to be. Well, then I would close the evening, and thank you very much for being here and for this exchange, and let's really go with open hearts the future.
Okay. Thank you, Roberta.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nadja.
Thank you, Igiaba, Roberta, and the Intercultural Center as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for having this opportunity tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.